Oh, and I'm not seeing the screen. Okay, there it is. It's back. And but more importantly, I am a mom of a deaf-blind child who is 15 now, and I have been doing with him what I'm going to teach you how to do today, and that is a parent report. I've been doing that for about 10 years now, so I believe I've got quite a bit of practice. So if we can go to the next slide, Tabby. So what is a parent report? It is a written report by the parent or guardian of the student discussing everything about the student in and outside the school. So this report is not only going to include information that you would like the IFSP or IEP team to know regarding your child's education, but also things outside. So we're really looking at the whole child here and helping them to understand your child better. I kind of want to stop right here, and if anyone has any questions, what we're going to do is if you want to jot them down in the chat box, you can do that, or just write it down, and once I do my presentation, we can answer at the end. All right, so Tabby, you can move on to the next slide, please. All right, so why do a parent report? Well, there's several reasons. It helps prepare the parents and the guardians. That was one of the main reasons that I started to do a parent report. What was happening to me is I was having all these thoughts and ideas of what wasn't working or what was, and I would verbally announce them in the meeting, but it really wasn't, they weren't concrete and they didn't have data to support it. So having a report that you have to write everything down and include your data really helps to prepare the parent or guardian to be able to go into that meeting really knowing what they're asking for and have information to back it up. So number two, it also prepares the professionals. So this is huge as far as helping the professionals understand where you're coming from. If they can have something written in front of them prior to that meeting, it really helps for them to get their minds around what it is that you're asking for. And then they're not so surprised at that meeting, and then they can kind of move on to maybe thinking about ways to help answer your questions. Three is it helps keep the IFSP and IEP meetings shorter and more productive. And I've seen this over the years with helping other parents do this, that it really does help. We lost our screen here, Tabby. It helps to shorten that meeting time. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm seeing your screen, Tabby, and not the presentation. There we go. All right, so it does help it to make it more productive, and really when I've used this with parents and not the meeting time drastically longer, because if the professionals have an idea of what your expectations, what you're looking at, they can already come up with ideas and really even help with draft IFSP or IEP. All right, and I think there's another one if you want to. And it helps the parents feel more part of the team, and this is really huge. If the parents can come into the meeting feeling like contributed and they have all their ideas and thoughts being distributed throughout the meeting, then it makes them feel like they're more a part of this team, which we are supposed to be a part of as from the get-go. But if the professionals are just providing all the information, it's the parents can feel a little left out. So this way, the parents have all their thoughts and ideas on paper, and they can go over it with the team. Can you go to the next slide, please, Tabby? All right, so what to include in the report, and you can just click on all these, Tabby, for me. So, and we're going to talk about these individually. So you want to include the strengths of the child, the challenges that they're facing, their plans for the future, their present level of evaluation, their goals for their school year, and then the accommodations, modifications, supplementary aids, and services. And we're going to go through these one by one. So you can move to the next slide, please. All right, so strengths. And I really love this part because when you go into an IFSP or IEP and you're talking about all your child's deficits, it can be very overwhelming and hard for parents to go through. So I love to include strengths and give the team a good idea of what your child can do. This is a place to brag. Put all the great things that your child's doing and include things that they're doing in and outside of school. So here's a couple examples that I have. So Susie is a good singer. Can you click on some of these, Tabby, for me, please? She's a great singer. This may be something the team didn't know. You can click on all of these, please. She's a good friend to others. She's good at code switching between ASL and English. You can include educational strengths. You can include social strengths, but you really want to give the team a good idea of what your child can do. Most of our children, may feel a little overwhelmed in group situations and may not perform or do as well in school that they do outside of school. And this is kind of a place to give, these professionals an inside view of what your child can do in a smaller setting, say in the home or a one-on-one setting, and can help them to say, oh, they already do have this skill. Let's check that out and really dig in a little bit more and try to bring that out in a more social setting. All right, we can move on. Now this is a little harder. This is the challenges. This is what the whole IFSP and IEP is about, really finding out what your child is having a hard time with and how to face that. So you want to include everything that you want the team to know. It helps them to understand your child better and how to best service your child. You can click on the next one, please. Now, be sure to include your child's thoughts. This is important not only for the challenges but for the strengths. This is to really find out what our children need. We need to start from day one asking them if they can answer, what their thoughts are about these situations, and including in the strengths. What are your strengths? What do you feel that you're good about? And include that, in your parent report. This is Johnny says his strengths are this, and Johnny says his challenges are this. What I found throughout the years that this was key to helping my son really get what he needed, because what I thought he was having problems with, he may have, but what he thought, and what he really saw as a challenge was really what was more important as we moved up in the higher grades. And he had mentioned some things that I would not have been aware of. And this really starts the process of helping your child to start advocating more and understanding themselves a little bit more. This single page of the challenges, as a parent, really was something that I had to work through, because we don't always want to look at those things that are difficult for our child or seeing them as kind of negative. And I tried to shield my son for it for several years. And what I found out that by shielding him, we really didn't face these challenges. So the more that he understood what was his disability specifically, the more he was able to kind of grasp it and say, oh, okay, so now what do I need to do about it? So, this is something that it's a sensitive area, but as soon as your child can handle these things, I think it's important to start including them into the IFSP and IEP. All right, I think we can move on, Tabby. I'm going to be specific, too. All right, so next is the plans for the future. This helps the team understand your expectations. It really does give them a glimpse of where you're going. It includes plans for the next couple years and post-school years. So when you put your plans for the future down on paper for your child, you want to kind of, say, you can even talk about this year, but, say in the next couple years we see him doing this. And then out of, post-school, we see our child living in their own home or apartment, or maybe, we see them living with us. Whatever it is that, you can kind of picture, it's important for you to have that down, and it gives the team a really good look at where you're going with your child. Now, again, include the child's input in here. This is really a great way to find out what they're thinking about as far as what they would like to do in the future. And it kind of starts guiding them and thinking about different things that they can include in their education to get what they're looking at doing in the future. And this is a great place to dream. You want to have high expectations. Maybe it might not happen the next 2 years, 3 years, but if you don't have high expectations, then the children really don't have anything to look forward to. We really want to try and push them as much as we can without without it being too difficult. So we want the children to give their input, whatever it is. My son, for the first, 5, 6 years that we asked him what he wanted to do, he wanted to be an NFL football player. And that's fine. That's what we put down. That was what he wanted to do. And as he, grew and matured, he found out that, maybe football's not really his thing. And so he started gearing towards some other plans. But at least he was thinking and dreaming, and we can get an idea of what he likes. So we can kind of, gear some of the educational process and things we're doing outside of school around what he would like to do and helping him to be an advocate to get what he would like in his life. I like this quote: high achievement always takes place in the framework of high expectation. And we do know that those children that do go on to excellence have had parents that had high expectations. So this is a great way to include that in that meeting to really help the team understand what your expectations are for your child. All right, next slide, please. Present level of evaluation. So this is the personal evaluation of your child's present level. So where they are right now. You as a parent want to make sure to kind of sum up what it is that your child's doing right now according to the information that you have received. So you want all your present assessments, observation, checklists that the school might not have. You want to include that in this section so that they can understand better where you think and where they're going. So here's a little example, and it's not very typical, but we're just going to give it here. Tim is an 8-year-old boy in 2nd grade. Due to a moderate bilateral sensory hearing loss, Tim struggles to hear in crowded environments. Although Tim appears to be maintaining average academic grades, his grades are slowly slipping from where he was achieving. So it's our recommendation that, and then you can go on and give some recommendations here. But this is really, if you want to click on one more time, Tammy, this is really your summary. So it's taking all those things that you had written before, the strengths, the challenges, any observations, assessments that you have, and giving your summary of where your child is now and what you need to be doing this year in order to help him. All right, so goals. Now, we could do a lunch and learn on goals and probably not even complete it all. So I'm going to kind of go through real quick this section with you, and we can go into more specifics later. So I like to tell parents to keep our academic goals a little bit broader at this point, just to help the professionals, be able to guide us specifically what they're thinking of helping with your child that year. They are the experts, and they should be able to help fill in those goals better. Now, that doesn't mean that if there's a certain area that we as parents feel that our child needs some better goals written, that we don't specifically write them in here. But I just want to make sure that we're respecting all the professionals in the room, that this is what they do, that we keep those a little bit broader, and they can help to define those better. You want to use a model that I have up here as a guide because we have to have our goals be measurable. So you want to have a specific date listed, like by the end of, I have March 2017, or by the end of the IEP in September 2017, Johnny will sign 20 new words. It has to be very specific so it can be measurable. Now, you want to include all the goals you have for your child. Not necessarily are all of them going to be reached inside a school. So you want to include things like, you can click on these, Tabby, for me, please. You want to include social skills, self-advocacy skills, independent living skills, and I think there's even more on here, Tabby. Oh, we can all see your screen, just so you know.
I know, I'm sorry.
Okay, and extracurricular activities. So these are things that really, we're looking at the whole child, and we want to include goals that we as the parents or guardians can also be a part of helping that child reach. And you want to show the team that, yes, we're going to have this goal, but we will work on this goal at home. But you'd be surprised at how many of these skills and these goals can intertwine with the educational day, and that the team may pick up some of these goals for you as well. Now, the hardest part about goals I find is as a parent, I just don't know what my child should be doing. So can you go to the next screen, Tabby? So what I use and what I like to have my parents use are there's quite a few different skill guides out there. They're called Deaf and Hard of Hearing Transition Skill Guides. In Michigan, we do have the Michigan Early Childhood Planning Guide. And what these are is a list of different skills that the child should hopefully be able to meet within a certain age or grade level. This Early Childhood Planning Guide is for preschool. So I believe it's kindergarten. It may go up to first grade. I'm not sure. But it does help the parents come up with specific goals. Like if they go through and they make these check marks, and the professionals use these too, but at least it'll give the parents some ideas of, looking through, like say at 2-3 years old, my child should be doing these skills. Let me see how many they do. Oh, they're not saying 2-word sentences yet. So that can become a goal that you have, or that you can, say to the team, they're not. This guide showed that he's not here. This is where he should be. Let's include that. You scroll down. There's a couple more if you want to just fill the whole page. So I have the links up here. The Michigan guides are on mdelio.org website. So you can get on there and look them up. So they have the early childhood one, and then they also have a secondary transition guide, and this one starts in 7th grade and goes to 12th grade. And it's very specific, and it does include kind of like a whole child approach. So not only academic goals are in there, but also those skills, like I mentioned, the social skills, the self-advocacy skills, the extracurricular activity skill goals. And it can help the parents to be able to find specifically what the child needs to work on. I can give you an example with the Michigan Secondary Transition Guide. I have used this with my son. Now, he's in 9th grade, and this starts in 7th grade, this specific guide. I personally went through the guide myself and came up with all the things that I thought he still needed to work on within his grade level. I also gave this to his IEP team. So he had someone on the team, and I think it was the counselor that has always filled it out for him. And she would fill it out. And then I had my son fill it out as well, so we got what he thought he could or, he was or wasn't doing. And then I also took it to a family member, and they filled it out. And this is really, it came back to me, and all of ours were pretty accurate on what we thought he could or couldn't do. But it gave me a good idea of that we weren't missing anything. And what these guides did for me is it helped to fill in some gaps that we weren't thinking about, specifically to him being a deaf and hard of hearing child. Because I don't know what it is that he needs as a hearing individual. And this is very specific to what he needs to grow up and be able to function in and outside of school as someone who's deaf. And so it really did help me, but I even noticed the team as well looking at some different items that they wouldn't think of. So this does include things like volunteering out in the workplace, getting a bank account, understanding different things that we wouldn't necessarily include in the school day, but they did start to include some of these items in his actual academics too. So it really did help all our teams to really work on more of a whole child approach and including everything that he does that he would need to be successful later in life. So the last one here is the Laurent Cleric Center Transition Skill Guide, and this is a little bit more broader, and it starts from kindergarten to 12th grade. So I really would advise all of you to take a look at some of these guides and really start implementing them with your students or your children. All right, can you move on? Next slide. All right, so our last thing that we want to list on our parent report is the accommodations, modifications, and supplementary aids and services. So you want to be realistic and appropriate for your child only. This is really important that we are looking at our child and not what other children are getting, because everything that we want to include in this section has to be backed up by the data that you and the team provided in the IFSP or IEP. So it's got to be realistic. You can't ask for something that someone else is getting without being able to back that up. Now, there's a lot of resources out there. Ones that we recommend is a Hands and Voices IEP checklist, and that is on the handsandvoices.org website. It's a very thorough checklist, so you can go to that and use that to help kind of understand what are some of the things that he may or may not need. Another one is Karen Anderson has a great accommodation list as well. You can go there to get some help with understanding what might be some of these accommodations, modifications that they would need. All right, you can go to the next slide, please. All right, so our whole goal is that the parent report helps us parents to advocate for our child better and really helps teach the child or the student be able to do this themselves. So our parent report is going to then turn into a student report. And this starts by us including that child right from the very beginning. You include them in every single parent report that you have. That child can first start with picking out the picture that they put in the report, or asking them what their strengths, challenges, and goals are, and you include more and more information of what they are feeling. So eventually, that information turns into their report. And you really want to have the child share this information in the parent report as soon as possible. You can, even if they come into the room and they say, "This is me in this picture," and that's all that they can handle, you want to start that as early as possible. You can go on, Tabby. When to give the IFSP IEP team the report? Well, we don't want this picture that's shown on the screen to happen. This is what we're trying to avoid. We don't want any surprises and to bring in this big report of all these things that we're listing. So we want to give them at least 1 week before the IFSP IEP meeting is held. We would like to give them that report. That gives them time to think about what you're wanting for your child, what their expectations are, so that if you want to click on the screen, Tabby, so that your meeting, you can keep clicking, your meeting looks more like this. Everybody's sitting at the table and being able to participate and feel part of the team. And then if you click one more time, Tabby, or one more, or the meeting is more like this, with the student is in the room and being a part and leading the team and feeling that they are a part of this and they have been giving their input and they feel comfortable. I started with my son when he was around 4 years old, and we would just bring him in for maybe up to 5 minutes to start out with. And as a 9th grader, he does present the whole IEP is his. He gives his own PowerPoints and he does this. But this took time, and it took a lot of effort, and it really took steps to kind of get there. So we can open up the phone line for any questions. I know I kind of went a little bit longer because we didn't start till 12:10. So does anyone have any questions? Tabby, are you there? Do you have the line open?
I'm here. Yes, it's open. I'm going to go to the contact slide.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining. We apologize for us taking a little bit longer to get the presentation up. If you would like any information regarding the information that we shared, feel free to email us at mihandsandvoices@gmail.com. It is on the screen. And I know that Tabby is really good at answering questions for any Ohio folks that are on the call as well.
Okay. Thank you, Janelle. We appreciate you presenting for us today.
Thank you, Tabby.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.